Hi, folks. Welcome to this week's episode of Catholic Recon, Testimonies from Reverts and Converts. I'm your host, Eddie Trask. Before I get to our guest, I want to remind you to subscribe to my channel. If you are a revert or a convert, please reach out to me so I can interview you on my channel. And also, as a reminder, new episodes air every Tuesday at 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. With that, I want to introduce our guest, Mr. Travis Wingo. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. So just so you know, Travis and I met about 18 months ago. One of the first guys I met here in Idaho. Long story short, and I know we'll cover it probably in the video. Right. He and his wife and his family have, they just have a special place in our hearts. And I wanted to have Travis on the show so he can share a little bit about his story. So with that, buddy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. There's been an interesting walk in my life. So I grew up, actually, I'm from Las Vegas, and I grew up with an interesting family dynamic. My parents were both LDS. Well, my dad grew up Methodist and kind of non-denominational. And my mother grew up in the LDS faith. And so when my parents met, my dad, shortly before I was born, I'm not sure exactly what had happened, but at some point my dad really started questioning his faith and started wondering, because one of the pillars, I don't know if it's a pillar, but one of the tenets of the LDS faith is that they believe that the true church was lost at some point. So they, through Joseph Smith, the church was actually restored. So the true faith was lost in the Dark Ages at some point. I don't know if there's an actual date that they have come up with yet. Sure. But at some point the faith was lost, and now they've recovered it. And so my dad started researching it and trying to figure out, well, what did they do when Jesus was around? And so he started doing his research and found that, gosh, it seemed awfully Catholic. And that's the beginning of his conversion. And he converted before I was born, as far as I'm aware. And my mom was actually in RCIA at some point as well. But when I was about 8 years old, they got divorced. I'm not totally sure, but I have a feeling that it was a faith had quite a bit to deal with it. I think that it was very challenging. I know, as in the LDS religion, or Mormons, or whatever people want to refer to them, they have a pretty tight family connection. They're very involved. They have a very strong community. And I think it can be really challenging to leave that. And I think my mom always struggled with that. And so I grew up I was born and raised Catholic. I was baptized as an infant. But I did attend the LDS church as a kid. Once in a while, I was in the Christmas program, and I done a lot of that thing. So my mom's entire family, they are all LDS, very, very devout in the Mormon religion.
Down in Vegas, or where are they?
Yeah, correct. So I have family all over Utah. Okay. So they're the promised land for the Mormons. Down in Salt Lake. Great people. Love my cousins. Just phenomenal. My mom is fantastic. And I will never forget that after my parents had gotten divorced, my mom and my stepdad at the time, and we would attend the Catholic church. And I'll never forget when the priest got up and gave a homily about marriage and how, we don't believe in divorce, and, you get married once as a sacrament. And that was the last time my mom and my stepdad ever went to the Catholic church. And it was, I don't know, within a few weeks, back to the Mormon church. and my stepdad converted. I guess my stepdad, I don't know, I'm not totally sure what he grew up, maybe Methodist as well, or some kind of Pentecostal. I'm not totally sure. But anyways, yep, they converted to Mormon and just kind of continued on that path. But I always remained Catholic my whole life. And as you can imagine, growing up in Vegas, there's a few struggles. I'll never forget when I moved to Boise, I met a really awesome Christian guy, my buddy Tim. And I'll never forget, we met up and we had gone out shooting or something. And afterwards he's like, let's go get some lunch. And I was like, yeah. He said, where do you want to go? And then he brought up, let's go to Hooters. And I said, all right, let's do it. Let's go to Hooters. And at first he was kind of looking at me funny. And I thought, why is he looking at me funny? He's like, you aren't serious, right, about going there? And I said, well, I don't know what's the problem. I didn't get it. I was confused on what the problem was. And he said, you can't go there. Do you see how they dress? And blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of like, I was a little confused because as a kid growing up, we would eat at the casinos all the time. And the cocktail waitresses cruise through the buffet, or they cruise through whatever. And they wear thongs. I mean, they got thong, G-string. I mean, it was not a G-string. It was like a thong leotard they're wearing, and their boobs hanging out. I mean, that's what I grew up.
Yeah.
And so to go to Hooters, I told him, I go, these are the most conservatively dressed girls in Vegas. So, I mean, but that was kind of that was an awakening for me. Like, wow, I didn't realize how tainted I was. And talk about sexualized. I mean, I was exposed to pornography at a very young age, became, obsessed. I don't know if I'd say fairly obsessed with pornography at a very young age. I mean, maybe 8, maybe 9 years old. I mean, just Playboy magazines or whatever. My neighbor basically had a whole collection of pornography tapes and would let us borrow them whenever we wanted. I was probably like 10, 11 years old watching hardcore pornography VHS tapes.
And obviously all your friends as well.
Yeah.
Common, right?
Yeah. And, all the while, I never miss mass. Very rarely I miss mass. I was very wild in my high school years. I lived the Vegas lifestyle, very much so, all the while trying to, it was almost, I wouldn't say it would be a double life, but I was trying to evangelize people, but I'm drunk at a party trying to evangelize. It was really odd.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the time, that's just what we did. I mean, I guess I was so deep in the culture, I didn't really feel, I mean, I knew the sexual stuff was bad, but I didn't really feel like what I was doing, other than that, I felt like I was pretty good. I mean, compared to my friends, I was a saint, Yeah. So I thought I was doing pretty well that way. But I just always remember, when I was probably when I first got into high school, I just knew I've got to get out of here or I'm going to self-destruct. So again, in high school, partied incessantly, never really got into drugs. That was not really my thing. I was always really freaked out about that. I had tried marijuana. I didn't really care for it. It just made me sick. It was just kind of gross to me. So I wasn't really into that. And then after that, I just really wasn't into it. A lot of my friends were really into pills, and a lot of other kind of hardcore drugs. Sure. But I just never I could just never get into that. I was just too freaked out. And I'm sure it was my guardian angel, and probably the prayers of my wife and her family. And I'll touch on that again later. But yeah, I just never got into that. But my problem was sexual sin. I was an idiot, we'll just say. And I did some things that were embarrassing for sure. And I destroyed some women's lives for sure. And I still feel bad about that sometimes, about what I had done. I know God's forgiven me and I've been to confession and all that, but it doesn't take away that feeling of sorrow, because I should have been a witness.
Yeah.
And not destroyed. I mean, I was just pure destruction. Yeah. So that demon of sexual sin was just rampant. I mean, it was just sitting on my shoulder, and I was entertaining it at every moment. Anyway, so with all of that, I at that point, but I just remember being in high school, and people would invite us to college parties. This is in Las Vegas, mind you. I'm going to college parties at UNLV and bored out of my mind, just thinking, sitting there, because I grew up in a very middle-class neighborhood. My dad was a single dad. I lived with him for the most part. I was I stayed with my mom every once in a while, but middle-class neighborhood. But there was a lot of very wealthy kids at our school, and their parents always went out of town for business, I guess. So I had enough partying to where I was bored by my senior year. I just was over the party scene.
Sure.
I couldn't handle it. I would show up at these places and I would just look around. I remember at a parties going, "What are we doing? What are we doing here? Is anybody like, this is the same stuff we did last weekend. This is the same stuff we did last night. There's the same people over there dancing. There's the same girls over there. There's the same stoners over there getting high. There's the jocks over there. I mean, I just unloaded at this party, and people are kind of like, "Whoa, what's wrong with that guy?" But I was just over it. I was just like, I'm so sick of this. But anyway, I just had to get out of there. So the girl I was dating at the time, her dad said, "If you want to marry my daughter," this is post high school. So this is a year after high school. The girl I was dating at the time said, "Hey, you've got to graduate school before you marry my daughter." At that point, I had already was on track to go to nursing school, and I knew I wanted to be a nurse. So I kicked it into high gear, and I thought, this is my ticket out of this place. So I went to school. I knocked it out in 4 years, got my bachelor's in nursing. And at that point, I was doing everything in my power to get out of that place. I worked in the emergency room down in Las Vegas. And throughout college, throughout college, I had a really serious girlfriend. We were actually engaged. But the whole time I was tainted. It was not a healthy relationship whatsoever, but I was just so infatuated. And again, that whole sexual connection completely clouds any kind of moral grounding. It makes you think illogically.
Sure.
You overlook things. You don't think straight because you're so connected. I mean, there's books and books about that kind of thing, but I was blinded. I was very blinded, and not, I guess, I don't know if I'd say I guess naive in a way about what it was doing to me. but I was in love. I just thought, oh, this is it. I'm getting married. I got to get my butt through school. Well, the gal that I was dating at the time, or I was engaged to, well, she started fooling around, and I figured this out. And then by the time my senior year in college, I'd figured it out that she had been messing around on me. So I broke that off. I got my engagement ring back. I bought a motorcycle, and I just went freaking nuts. I just was drinking too much. I was horribly depressed. And I just remember just crying for months, it seemed like. And I was so bad. I was to the point where I would drive around drunk and hoping that I would just die, that somebody would just smash into me. I'd never kill myself because I knew I'd go to hell.
Yeah.
But there was times when I was drinking so much that I just didn't care. I just thought, you know what? I don't care if I get head-on collision right now and somebody just kills me. So selfish, because, you know, I could have killed a whole family or something. But again, it just motivated me to get out of there. I had to get out. And so finally I graduated, and I just started applying for jobs all over the place. Arizona, the Caribbean, Utah, did I say Arizona? California. I had several interviews there. Nothing.
Idaho?
Idaho was not on the radar at all.
It wasn't at that time? Okay.
No, I didn't even know what Idaho was. Definitely not on the radar. But you would think that the Caribbean would have worked out, but that the island life is not for me. I figured that out. It's a very different lifestyle. So I spent a week down there, and that was more of the same, more of the same of what was going on in Vegas. So
yeah, it would have been from one prison to another for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually got burned on quite a few jobs, and I thought, as a nurse, what the heck is wrong? I mean, I should be able to move anywhere I want. That's what they told us. There's a nursing shortage. And I had interviewed and applied for probably 5 to 10 jobs with zero success, just one thing or another. The housing, of course, in California is way too expensive.
Yep.
I couldn't bring some of my guns to California, so that was a deal breaker for me. So anyways, I kind of given up, and I just said, all right, God, well, whatever you want me to do, I guess I'm going to stay here. But then again, I'd got myself involved in another relationship as a pity party for myself, feeling sorry for myself. I was destroying another girl because feeling sorry for myself. And I was in a very destructive point in my life where I needed to do something different. And again, this was started in high school. I knew I had to get out of there, but I kept finding myself over and over again, just destroying these poor girls. And I had to get out. Anyways, I had one of the guys, I actually met a guy at church, Jim Johnson. I met him at church in Vegas. And
I didn't realize that. I thought this was all in Idaho. Okay.
No. I met Jim at church in Vegas. It's kind of a funny story. But anyways, he had moved up to Idaho. And he said, hey, I kind of kept in touch with him. We actually roomed together. So I met him at church, and we kind of started hanging out a little bit. And then the living situation I was in, and it's funny. Here, I'm like partying, being a man whore, but I refuse to live with a girl or have a girl live with me. I just knew that was immoral, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
But I have my boundaries. I got limits. I can't do that. So anyways, so me and Jim roomed together, and a poor Jim here, I moved in with him shortly after I broke it off my fiance. Poor Jim's got to deal with me crying and whining for months. Oh gosh, he's probably like, what did I do? But anyways, I kept in touch with Jim. He moved up to Boise, and he's like, hey, you should come up here and check it out. So I thought, fine, that sounds cool. Because I had a lot of time. I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. I'm making crazy money. I was living with my parents at the time. And so I rode my motorcycle up to Idaho. And I just remember coming over the hill, and I said, this is it. This is where I am supposed to be. I knew immediately, these are my people. This is where I'm supposed to be. And so I had actually, another friend of mine actually lived up here, and from high school, he had moved up here. So I had stayed with him and kind of Jim off and on, because Jim, he's nuts. He was renting like a shack like a shed. He was living in a shed in the north end behind somebody's house, because he's such a cheapskate. And I thought I was cheap, but Jim's living in a shed. So there was nowhere for me to really sleep. And stayed with my buddy. And I just knew I was here. So I went to Walmart and I bought some dress clothes, took my resume down to the local hospital, and just rolled up there and said, hey, I want a job here. And they hired me on the spot.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome.
So anyways, they hired me on the spot. I guess I'm moving to Idaho. And so I went back. Well, how much time are we at?
Oh, we're good. Keep going, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say we might even get into the Burning Man story at some point.
Oh. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's just comical. No, we'll cover that in some other episode.
Yeah. So I'm moving to Idaho. So I head back to Vegas, back to this destructive relationship that I was in. Mostly me being the destructor. The gal that I was dating at the time, she was innocent and as sweet as could be, didn't deserve a thing that she got from me, of course. But anyways, I went back there and I said, I'm moving to Idaho. I packed up all my stuff. The hospital moved me up here. It was incredible. It was like awesome. I bought a house. I mean, immediately, because I was terrified that something was going to happen and I had to move back to Vegas. It seemed like nobody ever left the place. People would leave for like 6 months to a year, but they always came back. And I just vowed that that was not going to be me. And I remember after I'd moved here, I had nightmares for years that I'd woken up and I was back in Vegas.
Wow.
But anyways, I wanted to solidify that I was not ever moving back. So anyways, I packed up all my stuff, moved up to Idaho, and I'm starting over fresh. My life is going to change. No more of these idiot high school friends. No more. I was just going to clean up everything. Well, the girl I was dating at the time, she decided to tag along. So here I was trying to leave. And well, I guess she didn't tag along. She had kind of moved. She had sort of, I don't know how this, I think she had kind of moved up here first. And I thought, dang, I'm trying to, but it was supposed to be like a temporary thing. I don't know. Anyway, so here it is. I'm in Idaho. I'm trying to straighten myself out, start a new life, new friends, new work, new everything. Well, it seemed like, well, it didn't seem like, I know for sure, the first probably 6 months to a year, I was worse. I actually got worse to the point where I was out of control. I mean, I was just out of control.
This is the classic, you got out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in you, basically.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like I just went nuts. I just went crazy. I was out drinking and partying. As much partying as I had done in high school, I had never gotten, I'd only maybe once in my life ever gotten to the point where I was so drunk that I had blacked out once in my life. That happened to me a few times after I had moved up here, which it was, yeah, embarrassing. And I was again on the destructive path. But that girl that I had been dating actually helped straighten me out. She kind of was like, hey, like, you gotta like get your crap together and everything. And so I started really started diving into my faith. And part of it is she was a Protestant and she kept challenging my faith. So it was really like stirring up stuff. I started attending Bible studies with her at Calvary Chapel. I really started digging into my faith. And anyway, she ended up leaving, but I continued because I was, at this point, I was like, I need to find a wife. Because I always felt like I wasn't out cheating people, robbing, stealing. I'm not doing drugs. I felt like a pretty honest person. I just had sexual sin was my go-to. And I just always felt if I get married, this will stop. But anyways, again, kind of referencing that high school party, I remember sitting there watching pornography by myself in my room. I'm a grown man. And I just remember feeling really embarrassed at myself, like almost like I was actually thinking about, this might sound weird, I'm thinking about the saints in heaven looking at me from above. And I'm thinking, I got extremely embarrassed at the time. I remember that going, oh, this is weird. Like, I'm not really secret here. This isn't really that secret. I'm okay. Anyways, I remember from that point on, I think I had one slip up, but I vowed from that point on, that's probably about, let's see, 12 years ago.
Wow.
Zero pornography. 12 years ago, I had it. I just said, forget it. I was just sick about it. I got angry and I just said, I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm done with pornography. Girl ended up moving. She moved back to Vegas, and I slowly started to figure out myself. I started kind of dating here and there, but nothing really was working out for a few years. Just getting burned left and right. I couldn't really get a date. It was a very interesting time. Actually, around that time, I actually met Father Mariu. She was fresh out of school. He's a brand new priest. And we started riding motorcycles together, started going on trips. I met Father Caleb. He was riding motorcycles. So I started hanging out with these guys, and slowly God was working on me. And so much so, I kind of thought, well, this girl thing ain't really working out. Maybe I'm supposed to be a priest. So I really started discovering that. I started praying. I didn't want to be a priest at all. I always felt like I was supposed to be married. But I felt like God was calling me maybe, or something I need to explore. It's like, well, I'm single. I can't get a date. What's the other option? I mean, I guess I got to be a priest. So I started down that path and hanging out. I mean, I had a blast. I had no idea. It was just, my idea of a priest was they just sat around and read the Bible all the time and prayed. And I don't know. I didn't really know what they did, honestly. But it wasn't until I met Father Mariusz, I thought, these guys ride motorcycles. They go camping. I mean,
they're normal. They're human.
Like, this isn't so bad. So yeah, anyways, I started hanging out with Father Mariusz and everything, and thought that was a path for me. I then I had kind of started dating a Protestant girl a little bit, but it just wasn't. I just thought, no, I was to the point where I was like, I really need a Catholic girl at this point. If I'm going to do that. And then there was a group that we had kind of formed. We called the Boise Catholic Crew, and we would go out and do all kinds of stuff like river rafting. And then they started Theology on Tap, and so there was this really cool young adult Catholic community that started forming, and we had a really good time. And we would go out downtown, we go dancing, but we were all pretty, it was much better, of course, much more moral, I would say.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big hookup culture and all this stuff. We respected each other and looked out for each other. We went camping together and all kinds of stuff. It was a blast. It was really, it turned into Treasure Valley Young Adult Ministry eventually.
Okay.
But it was great. And then I had met Johnny and Larissa Horn. And so I started helping out with youth group at St. John's at the time. Really enjoyed that. Of course, I liked the teens, but I was wife hunting. I ain't gonna lie. I liked the youth group, was fun and I enjoyed it, but ultimately I was really looking for a wife. And it's funny because so my wife, which I don't know, some of the guys listening to this probably know, but she has a twin. And so I was really interested in Jen, my wife's sister. And so we kind of dated a few times. It wasn't anything serious, but I felt like this is my wife. This is supposed to be my wife. I was like, this is who I prayed for. This is who I wanted. But she never really seemed terribly interested. I thought, gosh, this is weird. Like, I thought, this is it. Like, God, you brought her. And it just kind of, and then I just remember I was out camping one time. I was kind of in the desert, literally, like spiritually,
sure,
and mentally and physically. I was actually camping in the desert. And I remember she called me. She goes, I just don't really think this is going to work out. I just not feeling it. And I remember just being devastated. Like, what the heck? I don't know what to do here. And so that kind of fizzled. I knew she had a twin sister, but Kimberly was always so quiet and she was really shy. And I just not really into, I don't know, wasn't really that interesting to me. So I just, whatever. Anyways, I don't know how much longer after that Kimberly, I had heard, so since we were in this group, Kimberly had mentioned, or I had heard that, so she had been dating a guy in our group, and they had broken up, and it was kind of, I didn't really know what happened, but I heard she was really having a hard time with it, and it was just weird. I don't know, it was kind of an odd relationship. And anyways, I felt the need to reach out to her. So she, I just felt like kind of I was a leader sort of in this group. So I felt like, hey, I should give her a call and make sure she's okay. And, I felt obligated to help. So I called her, and I ended up talking to her on the phone for 2 hours. And I thought, that's weird. I don't know. I just kind of, that was kind of a cool conversation. But anyway, I don't know. I was just kind of surprised, I guess. And then we had talked a few more times after that. And I just thought, oh, this is interesting. And then we'd kind of gone out a couple times with groups of friends. I never was like, I don't know. I never really thought about us as a relationship, really. We'd met up because I just thought I was trying to help her through this time that she was having in her life. And and then one time she said, hey, let's go to you want to go to the movies? And so I said, sure. So I went and picked her up, and I thought this was a group thing. And so we show up to the movie theater, and I was like, where's everybody at? Because we were all in a group. And she's like, well, what do you mean, where's everybody at? I was like, well, I thought this is a group thing. And she's like, oh, okay. No, it's just us. I thought, okay, this is weird. And then anyways, then after a while, I was kind of thinking, because we had hung out a few times, but I was thinking, I wonder if she thinks we're dating. And then she dropped a bomb. And it was like terrifying. She's like, are we dating? This is like, we'd hung out a few times. And I thought, oh, I don't know. It scared me kind of, and I thought, I guess, yeah, we're dating. Because I didn't want to destroy anybody else. I was so sick about what my past had held. I was afraid to get involved with somebody else. It
Yeah.
was just kind of scared, like, I don't know, kind of thing. And anyways, so once it was official, after 3 months, we got engaged.
No.
6 months later, married.
What?
Like that. Yep. It was like 9 months done. I mean, I was just, well, yeah, it was less than a year before I'd like started dating her to before we were married. I was done. I was done with the dating scene.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you to have the your past out of the way, the sexual sin to be left behind, what a huge blessing, you know. And like I've talked about before and what I wrote about, you know, the pursuit of chastity. That's it right there, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of really cool things that happened. One of them is I had never even thought about praying for my spouse. That was not even I don't know. I didn't know people did that, but I had found out later that Johnny had been encouraging his sisters to date me. Like, hey, you guys should go check out that Travis guy. He's kind of crazy, you know, he wears sparkly pants and stuff, but you know, he's check him out.
Yeah.
And they had been praying, their whole family had been praying that they would find somebody. And Kimberly tells the story better than I do, but she said that when I would take her sister out, one time in particular, I had met them at mass, Kimberly and her sister, and I was there to pick Jen up because we were dating, sort of. I mean, we only went on a few dates, not like we dated for months. We only went on a couple dates. But anyways, I went and picked her up. And Kimberly says that she clearly heard God speaking to her that that's your husband.
That's so
cool. But she never really told anybody that, because she's like, that's crazy. Like, he's dating my sister. Like, you know, I don't know. It's weird. And then she said that Jen would come home from these dates with me and be like, oh, I don't know, it was weird. He was doing this and that. And he wanted to go in the desert. And he wanted to go four-wheeling and shoot guns and all. And Kimberly's like, oh, that sounds nice. Kimberly was like, sounds awesome. But her sister was not impressed, you know?
Yeah. When did you guys get married? What year was that? What year did you get married?
2011.
11. Right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, why don't you, if you want to, talk about the kids and family life and all that, you know, because I'm assuming part of the story is you continue to, you know, you talked about Father Mariusz and meeting other priests, and you said God was working on you. So I'm assuming this whole process since you've been married, he's been working on you.
So, yeah, God was working on me. Man, was he working on me. So Kimberly and I got married. And it was very interesting because the sexual past that I had kind of crept up on me again, in the way that here, Kimberly, completely opposite upbringing and life than me. I mean, totally opposite. Never partied, not getting drunk. She ain't watching porn. She had like one boyfriend ever in her life, as pure can get. And, you know, we go on our honeymoon and I'm thinking like, oh, it's on. Well, it wasn't exactly what I had imagined. I mean, it was, and it was really unfortunate. And at that point, it's really sad. It was really sad to me that we didn't get to experience that joy together, you know, to where I didn't get to give myself to her like she was able to do that to me. It was really unfortunate. And it really hit home once all that kind of happened. Like, wow, this really sucks. that I can't do this. But the other thing is the grace that God has and the beauty, and Kimberly able to be okay with that. Because I had the whole sit down thing. I told her my past. She actually said, let's hear it. I didn't get into every single detail, not quite to the extent that you did in your in your book.
No one did. Yeah.
I didn't go there, but I gave her the Cliff Notes version.
Got it. Yeah.
And had to share that kind of thing with her. But anyways, amazing. I mean, it just, Kimberly, I mean, I couldn't have figured it out better. I mean, just the most amazing, incredible woman I had ever met. Just godly, sweet, innocent. And boy, did I need a filter. God knew I needed a filter bad. I was, trying to live my life, but God knew that I needed somebody to help tame me. I was still pretty wild. But anyways, so we our firstborn was born in 2012, so that didn't take much time. Fulton, he's our oldest, and shortly after that we had Avila. And we have 3 other kids. After that, we have a newborn now, over the years. And this year, actually in May, is our 10-year anniversary. So pretty awesome. But yeah, I'll touch a little bit. I know we're kind of getting on time, but I'll back up a little bit. When I was in high school, I remember being at a party, and at the time, the girl I was dating, she decided to run off with my best friend, which was devastating to me. And I remember walking home. I actually lived in Henderson, which is outside of Las Vegas. And I remember walking home and just crying out to God, like, what's going on? What's going on in my life? Why is this happening to me? And I just remember thinking, God, please forgive me. Help me to be, my prayer was for God, for my suffering to be on this earth. I want to suffer for how bad I have been and the destruction in my path. Just, I want to experience, I would much rather suffer here on earth than in purgatory or anywhere else. I had kind of forgotten about that until we had our daughter Avila. Boy, did God answer those prayers. Oh my goodness. I could spend an entire hour talking about that. But Avila has a very rare genetic disorder. She was born normal, healthy, strong. Everything was good up until about 3 or 4 months. I remember my mom coming visiting, and she said, "Do you notice that Avila never looks at you?" And I just thought, well, what? Are you sure? I mean, she's 3 months old. I didn't really pay attention, I guess. 2 or 3 months, I thought, whatever. But then we saw other babies, and then we noticed that they were looking at they would look at you. So we thought, that's weird. So that kind of tipped us off. There was something ain't right. But anyways, at 6 months, she started having seizures, which they kind of wrote off as, oh, it's not really a big deal. We had some crackpot neurologist that basically thought we had Munchausen, I guess, thinking that we were just making this up, that she wasn't really having seizures. And then it progressed to, she was seizing quite a bit, seizing a lot. And finally, we found a neurologist that would believe us. We took videos. Anyways, lo and behold, we found out that she has this very rare genetic disorder, which there's very little information on. They basically handed us a packet with 2 paragraphs in it about her neurological disorder or her genetic disorder. So not much information. So we she's now 6 years old. We deal with a lot of suffering, not to lengthen our tassels and show how holy we are and that sort of thing, but suffering on a level that I could never really explain, unless somebody has dealt with the same kind of thing. It's just really challenging for anybody to really comprehend what we deal with on a regular basis. I never thought that prayer would be answered that I had prayed so long ago, let me suffer on this earth. And it actually I never really thought about it until it got really bad. It just, God or my guardian angel or somebody just must have popped it in my mind. Hey, there's something. You remember this day when you asked for this? But sometimes the suffering can be so bad, it's nearly overwhelming. And it is overwhelming. It's completely overwhelming at times. Today was one of those days where it was so overwhelming. I get almost to fight or flight mode where I just want to leave. Not permanently, but I just need to get away. I've got to get away because it's so overwhelming. One of the things she has several issues. So one of the issues is she was born blind. That's why she wouldn't make eye contact with us. She has epilepsy. She has global developmental delay. So she's delayed in every aspect except she's fairly close to her milestones for physical abilities, which is almost makes things more challenging because she's so physically able to do things, but she has the mentation of a 1-year-old, basically, maybe a 2-year-old at the most, but she's 6 years old. The other thing that we're dealing with is she has early onset of puberty. So she's very tall. She's like in the 130th percentile for height, weight. She's very aggressive. She hits her therapist. She hits us. She is destructive in our home. She is not very reasonable. She's very emotional. She screams. I would say the biggest cross we deal with is her screaming. It's so incredibly loud. If you could just imagine somebody walking around your house and about 300 or 400 times a day, just blaring one of those bullhorns in your ear, hundreds of times a day, it gets to the point where you can't even function. So it's an ongoing process. We have days that are better than others. Sometimes we'll get a week of reprieve where she's pretty chill and manageable and fairly reasonable. But I would say probably 90% of the time, she's completely out of control, raging, destructive, aggressive, screaming, and unbearable at times.
Yeah. Now, I thought you mentioned this. I don't know. Are there other treatments that are coming around or you're hoping are coming around the corner? Because again, it's so rare and no one seems to know much about this, right?
Correct. Yeah. The problem is, so we actually started a Facebook group to try to seek out other people, other kids or families or anybody that had any. So we've actually made quite a bit of connections all over the world, actually. Russia, Sweden, South America, Australia. We've actually got hooked up with a doctor from Denmark that seems to know quite a bit about it. But the problem with it is it's so rare. There's not a whole lot of information about it. But the other thing that's interesting is all of the kids that have this and adults have very different presentations.
Oh man.
Some of them are like invalids in a wheelchair, or they're just bedridden. There's a few kids on there that you would just think that they're maybe a little autistic or something, but other than that, they're pretty normal. And so it runs the gamut. So it's really hard there's not really a treatment, so to speak, yet. So basically what we do is just manage the symptoms.
Got it.
So she's on a ton of medications. I don't know how many medications she's on, like 6 or 7 medications for seizures, for behavior, for sleep, for her mood, to try to level out her mood. Yeah, she's on a lot of medications. She can't really do a whole lot for herself. She can feed herself, thanks be to God for that. But she's not potty trained. I mean, I don't know if she ever will be. We basically come to the realization that she'll never leave our home. I mean, unless God heals her miraculously, which we've prayed every novena under the sun multiple times.
Yeah.
So I've kind of come to grips with it and just know that God, I mean, I don't want to limit God and say that he will never heal her, but I just feel like I don't know at this point what else to do. For me to deal with it emotionally, I just say, well, God just doesn't want her to be healed. She's just not going to be healed. And then for me, if she is healed, I'll be surprised and thankful. But if she's not, it's just hard to do novena after novena and be let down so many times to where it's like, okay, well, to me, he's answered the prayer that she's not going to be healed. So this is just a cross that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I try to be optimistic about it and hope and pray that it's saving souls. I will never know till I'm in heaven, but I'm hoping that there's either some sort of witness or.
I was just going to say that actually. No one can fathom what you guys walk through. And when you share the story, I never, ever take it as you saying, no, please look at us. It's natural to want to talk about such a thing. And, since we moved here, I can tell you as a witness, it's beyond words, honestly. And no matter how many times you've prayed and that prayer has not been answered, there are a lot of people that will continually pray, and not just about the healing, but for you guys to be strong and for the kids to be strong and just to keep pressing on. And just the perseverance alone is the witness. And yeah, I have a lot of faith that good things are coming from it and good things will continue to come from it, no matter how hellish it seems at times, man. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. I think it is important to talk about this because it comes up a lot. It came up a lot in our old denomination, this issue of healing. We have to be careful not to assume that we know what God has in store and how he's going to play the cards that he has. But thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that. It means a lot. And I think what you covered from childhood to present. Is there anything else you want to add, actually? Anything else talk about the different initiatives that you're involved in? I mean, just spend a few minutes. I really want the audience to know kind of what else you're up to, which is amazing that you even have time to do some of these things.
One of the really cool things is, Kimberly's brother is Johnny, and Johnny and I run the men's conference up here in Idaho, and that's become a pretty good way to evangelize, and I've really enjoyed that. So we stay pretty involved with that, and it is getting more challenging for sure to do that with Avila. But we try to stay pretty involved with that. I'm also a grand night for a local council here. We're kind of a rogue, a rogue Knights Council. So I do that. But honestly, I don't do a ton with that. We have an awesome member in our group, Corey, and he does 99% of the work. And now that COVID has hit and everything, that kind of really messed up that whole meeting, the family night that we had and everything. So I keep trying to get that ramped up, but it's just was such a challenge, with the kids and the thing is with Avila, we can't attend anything. And that the most frustrating thing, Kimberly and I were just having this conversation tonight. We can't as a family just go to somebody's house for dinner, for example. We can't just have people over whenever we want. We can't just get up and go camping for the weekend. We can't, there's a lot of things. Everything I do in my life, I have to think about what the effect is going to be on Kimberly and Avila. So what do I got to do? I mean, everything, what I buy, where I go, what we do as a family, how do I invest? I mean, every aspect of my life revolves around what Avila can or cannot do. And for most people, they think like, oh, we'll just go over to so-and-so's house, or like this weekend, I want to go help somebody move. One of my buddies is moving. Well, it has to be a really coordinated effort, because I can't just go for 6 hours and go help somebody move, because Kimberly will be losing her mind. We have a newborn, and with Avila, she's going nuts.
Yeah.
So I have to really take all that into account. But anyways, so yeah, I have really dialed down how much stuff I'm involved with. I try to stay involved with Salt and Light Radio as much as I can, doing little things for them. But mainly just trying to keep a community together is my main thing. And then, I help out with Avila's genetic group, which has actually been really interesting, because we meet families all the time on there that are going through a lot of the same struggles that we've already been through. Yeah. So that's really nice to be able to help them navigate some of that. But anyways, I just want to give guys hope that, we still keep having kids, even with Avila. And it's like, it's literally a living hell at times.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of times, but we just have always had dreams of having a big family. And we just it's just how it is. And we just got to deal with it one day at a time and just hope and pray. I mean, our prayer lately has just been, God, please make Avila happy. And it just seems like she's getting worse. So it's like, throw us a bone.
Dude, if I could sum up the whole thing, and I'll probably label the video this: real life with Travis Wingo. Like, that's it, man. You're not putting on a facade. I cannot say enough about everything you just said, because who knows who the heck is dealing with this, who dealt with the things that you dealt with in your past, the people that deal with special needs children. We have no idea, but I pray that this blesses people. If you are watching this, please, next time you say your prayers, think of little Avila, think of Travis and Kimberly and their kids, and just think of all the people that may come across this video that have similar crosses to bear. And Travis, thank you so much again. Thank you for taking time and going through the whole story. I appreciate it more than you know. And until next time, folks, take care and God bless. Bye.